Hello everyone, and today we're going to talk more about self-remembrance. We're going to look at more information on self-remembrance. We've spoken about the practice quite a lot, in pretty much every lecture in fact, but today we're going to look at what level of consciousness self-remembrance represents. We're also going to look a little at what it is like, and then some obstacles to self-remembrance, especially the naivety of the essence. And then we'll conclude the topic by looking at why we need it, and we'll review again the practice. So let's have a look at the 4 states of consciousness. We spoke about this in the introductory talk, but where does self-remembrance sit on this chart? Well, the first level of consciousness, the lowest level of consciousness, is known as akasia. It represents ignorance, human cruelty, barbarism, deep sleep, brutal and instinctive actions. Really, this is a very instinctive, cruel world, the world of akasia. The next level up is the world of pistis, and this is the world of opinions and beliefs. Really, here we find all kinds of theories, but no direct perception of the truth. Pistis is the consciousness of the common level of humanity. This is what we call in our classes as well the waking sleep. If we just go around acting in the same way as we see everyone else around us acting and thinking as well. So we find ourselves doing very little here consciously. The third state of consciousness is called dianoia, and this represents an intellectual revision of beliefs. This is where we start questioning how we live and why we do what we do. Dianoia is where we seek to improve our condition in life. It's here where we would find self-remembrance. The highest state of consciousness is known as nous or nous. It is perfect awakened consciousness. It is profound inner enlightenment. Here we find people who have awakened their consciousness and have faculties such as clairvoyance, intuition, and noetic thought is synthetic, clear, objective, enlightened thought. In the first 2 states of consciousness, we live on the horizontal path. There is no development of the consciousness in these 2 states. But when we start applying the dianoetic thought, then there is the possibility of developing the state of consciousness. And as we said, at this level, in dianoia, is where we will find self-remembrance. At this level, nous, is where we will find awakened consciousness. Normally, in our everyday lives, we're in the level of pistis, where we carry on. We're not really sure what it is we're doing from one moment to the next. We might put down our keys or forget to lock the back door. We might forget where we've put our glasses, or we might not realise that we've moved from one room to the next, or we might suddenly find ourselves somewhere and not realise that we were actually conscious of getting to that place. We might drive a car, but think all the time when we're driving. But when we drive a car and we try and apply the teaching, apply the self-remembrance, put into action those qualities of the essence, the will and the perception, and we try and do those 2 at the same time, then we are heading up the vertical path, and we have initiated a development within us. So let's have a look at the functioning of the essence to see if we can understand what self-remembrance is like a little bit better. We've said that when an essence is born, that 3% is focused. It is in one spot. But as we get older and as we grow up, from a toddler to a child to a teenager to a young person, and then as an adult, then we find that our essence is, we still have the free 3%, but it is fractured, it is separated, it is diluted very much so by all of the conditionings that we have succumbed to in our lives. All the ways of behaving that we carry out, thinking all the time, going from one thing to the other, having beliefs about ourselves, having reactions, having mechanical ways of behaving. All of this has led to the fractioning or the separation of the essence. And so it doesn't exist in a homogeneous whole anymore. So if this person was to put in the work, combining the first 2 steps, which is the will and the perception, and remembering that they're doing that, then they will reach to a stage of self-remembrance. And in self-remembrance, the essence was once again, the 3% is once again gathered. And this person is a very different person to the one on the left. This person here is based within them. And this is just a rough drawing, rather than based in the outside world, always looking outside. This person is within themselves, and it is the essence that sees, it is the essence that hears, and it is the essence that feels and touches and so on. To give you an analogy of how different the two conditions are, you could say that something is a static type of an image, black and white, like the one on the left. But for somebody who has self-remembrance, they see the world in a much, much more different setting. And more than this is only a photo here, but they would see it in action, like a video, moving. The difference is startling. From a static black and white image to a full colour, full moving image. That's the difference between someone who has self-remembrance and someone who doesn't have self-remembrance. This is the identified state. We see very little, the one on the left. But when we have self-remembrance, then we see things very differently. Here's a little list to show you all of the differences. If somebody is identified, we could say that they are unconscious. Our actions then are mechanical. We're distracted. We're unaware of things. Prone to errors. Life passes us by. We're victims, really, as well, of our own reactions all the time. The law of recurrence comes in, and those repeated behaviours of egos from past lives come in, play their part, and then leave. When we're unconscious or identified, we do not see this recurrence taking place. So we can say that we are unaware of the situation in which we find ourselves in. Certainly, we are more controlled by the ego, and any reaction or any unconscious behaviour that we have, really, it comes just as if it rains or as if it shines. When we're in self-remembrance, then you could say we behave with more consciousness. We have that conscious action going on. Our behaviour then is original. We are focused. We see things as they are. We're able to navigate through difficulties in our lives. We can find solutions to difficulties. Even difficulties within our own development, we can find those solutions for ourselves. The essence starts to know what it is it's doing and searches for it and yearns for it even more. Then this is how we can unlock our own creativity and intelligence and other faculties. If we thought we were thinking clearly and cleverly in this state, wait until we have self-consciousness and we see far more and understand far more when we're in self-remembrance. In this condition as well, we have conscious action. The essence is the one who acts. The essence sees, the essence feels, the essence speaks. Then, of course, when we make petitions in self-remembrance, our innermost being can help us far more effectively. I would like to say, though, to get from this state to this state is a very gradual process. Don't expect any big shocks or major changes. Everything happens very slowly and very gradually. We learn in this way. For us, it is important to be constant and to be making an effort every day to try and improve our self-remembrance. All of those activities that we've given you, each day, try and do it better, try and do more, try and do them for longer. No one reached that state of nous or nous overnight. Everything takes time. Everything requires a lot of study and a lot of practice. Mental training, if you like, meditation. And if you did find that somebody had become a master, they certainly wouldn't go around telling everybody about it. No one who has got to this stage ever boasts about it. He's simple and humble, pure and perfect, he or she. So let's have a look at the development of the essence to see where the obstacles to self-remembrance have come in. Now, we said way back in the lecture 1 really, that the essence develops, it's born and the full 3% is visible. And the essence develops only for the first 4 or 5 years of life. After that time, it is in the background. You can feel it. And sometimes if we did have a shock, then that essence is visible once more. Or if we do some work, then there is more development at a certain point. But by and large, the essence remains in the background. We know then very well that the personality has developed. And likewise, the egos come in as well. And the egos use the personality. And they use the personality and express themselves in tandem with it. So the essences remain quiet in the background. So what does this mean for us? By the time we've reached 4 or 5 years old, we're very much involved and interested in the external world. We're learning all the behaviours of the external world, and the personality is formed by the example of those around us. So the development of the essence has really pretty much come to a stop around about 4 to 5 years old. And then we say in this school that our essence really is the same as it was when we were 4 or 5 years old. So it is very naive. Any behaviours or any suggestions that the personality or the egos have made to us after this time, we simply go along with it. Imagine in the case of giving a child, say, €100 note, and then you might offer them a sweet and say, if you give me that, I'll give you the sweet. Any child would simply exchange the €100 note for the sweet because they wouldn't have enough information or understanding about the value of that €100 note. Our essence is as gullible and as naive as that. Any thought that comes along and it says, let's think about this. For example, thinking about a problem about work. It comes along and we simply go along with it and we think about it all day long. Never mind that at the end of the day, we haven't resolved the problem, and then we feel tired and we feel upset because the problem has grown bigger and bigger in our minds. To develop the essence means to question this behaviour. Just in that chart we saw in the dianoetic thought, we revise our beliefs, we revise our ways of behaving. So we do when we're trying to develop the essence. So this naivety of the essence is very well captured in this story called Little Red Cap. Fairy tales were often used to express the teachings and the condition of the essence and how it can free itself. And this story is no exception. In this story, we see very clearly the characteristics of a naive essence versus the characteristics of an ego or a wily ego. And I'll leave you to read this story for yourselves. You can simply pause the video at this point and read the story. But as you're reading it, take note of the behaviour and the responses of Little Red Cap, and take note of the behaviour and the responses of the wolf, because there we will see clearly the characteristics of the essence versus the ego. Here they are in summary. The essence is easily led, naive, gullible. It's deceived by the ego with no analysis of the situation. Even seeing the wolf in the bed with large ears and teeth and so on, Little Red Cap does not analyse the situation, does not have any clear view of what is actually going on. Although her intuition told her that something was wrong, by then it was too late. She had been easily led and distracted and fooled by the ego into going off course and not keeping to her purpose. The ego, of course, doesn't have any care for the purpose of Little Red Cap. He's manipulative. He's looking only for his own benefit, tricky and deceitful, and in the case of this particular wolf, murderous with evil intent. The ego has no mercy. The ego only thinks what it can get for itself. Our egos, unfortunately, are like this. With self-remembrance, we are not tricked. We break the naivety of the essence. We're able to see the ego as it arrives, even as it's coming into our own minds and suggesting a way of thinking or a particular way of behaving. We see the ego as it comes. We could use that example of thinking repetitively about work or problems. There are beliefs that we might have about ourselves and our position in the world and how we see the world. But with self-remembrance, we are able to spot all of these. We see things as they are. With self-remembrance, we have the correct inner state, and we're saving that precious creative energy that we need for the awakening of the conscience. With self-remembrance, every cell in our body receives a different type of energy. We vibrate at a higher frequency. If Little Red Cap had self-remembrance, she would have immediately seen through the guiles of the wolf, and she wouldn't have followed along with him. She would have assessed the situation. Now, you may have noticed at the story there was a little alternative ending. That's the one that shows if Little Red Cap had a level of analysis, she would have been able to save herself. So the practice of self-remembrance is the foundation of our inner work. It's featured in all of our lectures and all of our practices because it's the base level that we need to carry out our work. Self-remembrance provides understanding to all the topics we cover in these classes much better. They become things that we can perceive more directly for ourselves rather than having them as a theory. Let's review the practice. We are learning to live from moment to moment, and by that we mean that we need to dedicate ourselves to every activity that we do. Whatever activity it is that we're doing, just do that activity. Don't think about previous activities or future activities. Simply dedicate your time to that one. Here we are combining the first two steps, step 1 and step 2, the will and the perception. When we combine them, then we know what it is that we're doing. We feel what it is that we are doing. However, what happens at the beginning is that we only combine them for a very short period of time. This is really equivalent to turning a flashlight on and off quickly. Our aim is to get that flashlight so it's on in a continuous manner. It's shining forth in a continuous manner. So we want the time in which we are combining will and perception to increase and to lengthen. We also want to remember to do it more frequently than we are doing. If we are using our will, which is the action, and we are perceiving that we are doing that action, and we remember that we're doing it, then we reach to that third stage, which is the self-remembrance. A great author said, "The path starts with the 5 senses. To learn is to use them and not to be used by them." So you can see that it's the essence is the one that will listen. The essence is the one that will see, and so on. But that can only be gained by putting these two practices into place. So for the homework, try and deepen your understanding of self-remembrance. Concentrate on different focused activities during the day. Check the list that we sent you recently. For example, throwing and catching a ball for 10 minutes, using will and perception and remembering that you're doing it. Or you could focus on any object in your house. Use it as an object for the concentration practice. Or you can eat something as a practice, focusing on your taste and knowing that you're tasting. The main way to develop self-remembrance is to try and sustain the practice for longer and dedicate your attention to it. Make petitions in self-remembrance. Don't fall into the error of making petitions in a mechanical manner while thinking about other things. Feel yourself in the room, feel yourself in whatever it is that you're doing, and make the petition while listening to yourself making that petition. I haven't gone into the practice of self-remembrance very much because we have it very well documented on another video. So check out that other video. I'll send you the link to it as well. As usual, if you have any queries, email us at info@htsk.ie.